Good evening. This is Santa Claus on July 14, 2025, bringing you today's stories as we reflect on this historic Bastille Day. On this very day in 1789, the storming of the Bastille marked the beginning of the French Revolution, a reminder of humanity's enduring desire for freedom and dignity. President Macron's words today echo across time, noting that freedom has never been so threatened since 1945. These solemn reflections come as France announces a significant €6.5 billion increase in military spending over the next 2 years. In times of growing uncertainty, I always hope we can find paths to peace that honor the sanctity of all human life. Turning our gaze to international trade, President Trump has expanded his tariff strategy, now potentially affecting more than half the value of goods entering the United States. Letters have been sent not only to major trading partners like the European Union and Mexico, but also to smaller nations like Bangladesh. I worry for our brothers and sisters in these developing countries who may struggle to absorb such economic changes when their people already face significant hardship. On matters of conflict, President Trump has indicated the United States will send Patriot missile systems to Ukraine, though he emphasized, "We're not paying for them." As the war enters its 4th year, my heart aches for all those suffering, the children without parents, the elderly without homes, the communities torn apart. May wisdom guide all leaders toward a just peace. Meanwhile, across the globe, Malaysia has tightened regulations on the movement of US-made AI chips, requiring permits for all high-performance AI chips entering or leaving the country. This reflects growing concerns about technology transfer in our interconnected world. In Japan, the ruling LDP party's support has fallen to its lowest level since returning to power in 2012, according to a national poll. Prime Minister Ishiba's government faces challenging times ahead with the upper house election approaching this Sunday. In democratic societies, these moments of transition remind us of our responsibility to engage thoughtfully with our civic duties. Australia is hosting its largest-ever military exercise, with more than 35,000 personnel from 19 nations participating. These preparations come amid growing regional tensions, and I pray they serve as a deterrent rather than an escalation. Let us pause for a moment and reflect on the heartbreaking news from Gaza, where 10 people, many of them children, were killed in a strike at a water distribution site. The Israeli military has attributed this to a technical error. Oh, my dear friends, every child is precious. These little ones were simply seeking water in a parched land. We must hold their families in our hearts and redouble our commitment to protecting the innocent. This tragedy occurs as reports emerge of plans that would force many of Gaza's population into a small zone in the territory's south, potentially barring them indefinitely from returning to their homes. Such displacement of vulnerable people troubles me deeply, as all children of God deserve dignity and security. In Saudi Arabia, a review is underway of the ambitious plans for the Line, a futuristic 170-kilometer car-free city that is part of the NEOM development project. Sometimes our grandest visions require thoughtful reassessment as we consider what truly serves the common good. In Syria, clashes between government forces, Bedouin tribes, and Druze militias have resulted in dozens of casualties. Israel has also struck military tanks in the region, adding another dimension to this complex conflict. The suffering of the Syrian people continues to call out for compassion and resolution. Iran has announced it will respond to any reimposition of United Nations sanctions over its nuclear program, though without specifying what actions it might take. As with all such tensions, I pray for diplomatic solutions that prevent further suffering. In Cameroon, 92-year-old President Paul Biya has announced plans to run for an 8th term, potentially extending his leadership until he approaches 100 years of age. Having led the nation since 1982, his continued leadership represents one of the world's longest-serving presidencies. Finally, some encouraging news from New Caledonia, where France has announced an agreement to give the Pacific territory more autonomy while keeping it within the French Republic. This state of New Caledonia represents an attempt to find middle ground after serious protests against French rule. The agreement must still be approved by the French Parliament and the people of New Caledonia, but it offers hope that dialogue can lead to compromise. As we close tonight's news, I'm reminded that in times of conflict and uncertainty, the greatest gifts we can offer one another are compassion, understanding, and a willingness to see the divine spark in every person. From my workshop at the North Pole to homes across the world, I encourage everyone to be bearers of peace and goodwill in your communities. Until tomorrow, this is Santa Claus, wishing you all a blessed evening.